Good morning and welcome to the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce Business Breakfast Series. My name is Kimberly Nadeau-Lindlof. I'm the President and CEO of the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank our 2022 Business Breakfast Series sponsors. They include AT&T, Cross Insurance, New Dimensions Federal Credit Union, Nicholson, Michoud, and Nadeau CPAs, O'Donnell, Lee, McCowan, and Phillips, attorneys at law, Sheridan Construction. Our print media sponsor is the Morning Sentinel. Our radio sponsor is 107.9 The Mix. And Kennebec Savings Bank is our video sponsor. Thank you to you all. I'd like to remind you at this time to please turn off your cell phones in consideration of our guests. You also have evaluation forms on your table. If you could complete those and either leave them at the registration table on your way out or leave them on the table in front of where you're sitting, we'll come around and collect them. Our Business Breakfast Series committee, which determines what we're going to get for speakers and whatnot, really appreciates your feedback. We also provide it to the speaker so that he or she knows where they can improve and where they can lean in. If you have any ideas for entrepreneurial spotlighters like Parker here, please make a note of those on those forms as well. I want to welcome our newest chamber members this month, actually for March. They include A.E. Hodgson Engineers, No Negatives Photography, right here, Melody Grace Hair and Makeup, over here, Techie Company, you just learned about, Old Soul Collective, Department of Economic and Community Development, Mbingo Mountain Coffee, and B. Mallory Creative. I want to thank our business spotlighters today. You may have seen them when you had coffee. They were Bangor Savings Bank and Fame. And of course, I want to thank our entrepreneurial spotlight for his presentation and for his gifts, Parker from Techie Company. Upcoming events. We would like to invite you to join us on Wednesday the 20th at 4 p.m. We have a ribbon cutting at 43 Western Avenue in Fairfield. Kim Hawks of Own Real Estate is doing it. And then we have another one on Tuesday the 26th at 4. We're going to gather at 147 Main Street in downtown Waterville. Lindsay Beals of Soul Revival Yoga Studio, where my staff disappears to at noontime. Get your tickets now for the 55th Annual Awards Ceremony. We're holding it at Enchanted Gables in Oakland on Thursday, April 28th from 5 to 8 p.m. Please come and help us honor 9 of the area's finest in this year's red carpet event. Tickets are $55 and are available at midmainechamber.com, or you can just call the office or grab one of us. Our next business breakfast will be held on May 12th right here in this room. Join us for an engaging presentation with Marnie Grumbach, founder and lead account strategist at Fluent IMC. She will speak on marketing your business through LinkedIn and other social media platforms. That's again at the same time, 7:15 to 9 right here, and you can register on our website. The May Business After Hours is on Wednesday, May 18th in Maine State Credit Union on Grove Street in Waterville. And save the date for the Taste of Waterville. That is coming up this year on Wednesday, August 3rd, the first Wednesday in August. It'll be from noon to 11 p.m. at Head of Falls. Grab a bite to eat from our fabulous restaurants, food trucks, and bite booths, and you can check out our vendors. There'll be lots of entertainment this year. Our headliner has been announced. It's Motor Booty Affair. And our opening act is Trifecta. We also have Down East Brass for the big band swing. We have expanded our brew sampling, so if you want to buy a card for that, let us know. And this year we've introduced a cornhole tournament that is going to bring both amateur and professional teams from all over New England. Registrations are open for restaurants, food vendors, bite booths, everything. So secure your spot today if you're interested. And you just have to go to our website to do that. Our speaker today is Director of Engagement at Live Work Maine and President of Startup Maine, Katie Shorey. She will present on ideas for attracting people to the great state of Maine and retaining recent graduates. Time for Q&A will be allotted at the conclusion of the presentation, and when you're asking a question of Katie, we ask that you wait till Cindy runs the microphone over to you so that it can be picked up because this is being live streamed and recorded for local access cable and YouTube. So wait for that microphone, please. So at this time, it gives me my pleasure to introduce Michelle Jolalabi. She's the Chief Human Resources Officer at Thomas College. She's also first Vice Chair of the Chamber Board, and she's going to introduce Katie today. Michelle?
Thank you, Kim, and welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see so many faces on this rainy morning. It's my pleasure to introduce Katie Shorey. Katie is Director of Engagement of Live Work in Maine and a proud boomerang. She returned to Maine after working in Washington, D.C. and San Francisco, California. Prior to her position at Live Work Maine, Katie was the Business and Community Liaison for People's United Bank and then worked at WEX on the new Business Ventures team. Katie is active in economic development initiatives to help foster innovation and entrepreneurship. She serves as the president of Startup Maine, a nonprofit that serves as a convener, educator, and catalyst of the Maine startup ecosystem. In 2020, she was named to Maine Biz's Next list. In addition to Startup Maine, she serves on the advisory board of Maine Accelerates Growth and is a board member of the Portland Community Chamber. She attended St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York, and Freiburg Academy. Please join me in welcoming Katie.
All right. I was told that this will pick me up. Okay, here we go. So, shut that one off? Okay. Get this out of my face. Oh, this is great. I like this thing. Okay. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. This is a treat and so many new faces. I know a handful of you here, but I'm really excited to speak with you today. I am going to talk to you about Live and Work in Maine, as well as Startup Maine. And for those who don't know about either organization, we'll go through just what each of them does. And then also, I would love questions, comments, feedback at any time. These two nonprofits are very small and are doing some great work with a lot of partners. But for example, Live and Work in Maine is only 3 full-time people. So we constantly rely on feedback and just ideas to kind of propel us forward. It's a great way for us to be able to be gritty and agile. But a little bit about me. So I grew up in a really small town called Sweden, over near the Bridgeton-Freiburg area. Who's been to the Freiburg Fair? Anyone? Okay, my favorite one. And so my parents were, my mom was a nurse, my dad was a forest ranger, and I grew up really not knowing what Maine had to offer or what kinds of job opportunities or career and employment opportunities were here. And granted, things have changed in over the past few decades, but I think that that's a key piece to my story because, and what we're going to talk about today, because I think I think we need to do more to keep our young people and to also to lift them up, like people like Parker. I have it's a sort of a joke. I always say that people who grow up in Massachusetts, like, they're not told that they need to leave Massachusetts. They are not grown up with that message. When you grow up, you should probably leave the state. But I have to say that is something that we were kind of encouraged and told growing up. And I mean, to be honest, my parents wouldn't let me apply for school in Maine. They wanted me to get out. And I look back at that now, and it's a combination of them not necessarily knowing also what was available and the opportunities that we had, but me as a young person also didn't know. And I mean, now there's still so much that has to be done, but I think storytelling is huge, and there's different messengers. There's the business community, we have our teachers, but we need to educate the parents and the adults that are influencing the kids in the state, because I am somebody that is carrying around all of these different stories. I can rattle off all these different startups and what's going on at Thomas and at Rue Institute and these cool companies that have relocated to Maine, but we need to get those stories out to other people as well, because I think that's a huge piece of people staying. So I'll start with Live and Work in Maine. So we started, I've been part of the organization, I'm going into my third year, and the idea came from our founder, Ed McCursey. He realized that people weren't promoting this message. We grew up, everyone knows of us as a tourism state, which is great, and that serves a very specific purpose. But for those of us that live here and care about Maine thriving in this economy, we need businesses to thrive, and that means we need people, and we need people to have children, and we need people to stay, and we need people to have really good jobs. And there wasn't this message out there of like, oh yes, you can visit Maine, but you can also live and work in Maine. You can have the career, you can have the quality of life that we talk about, but you also can have a good career. And that just wasn't the tune. So it's really how it started. It was just this sort of call to action of live and work in Maine. It's very clear. Those are the things that we do. Easy peasy. And then we had a website, and it was a lot of resources about just different communities in Maine, different success stories of people who lived in Maine. And then the employer community came back to us and said, we want to tell people about the jobs that we have here. So that's why we then got our job board. We didn't want to go into the job board business. Let me tell you, it's not a very fun business at all. But we have a job board to essentially point to all the amazing careers that we have in the state. But think of us as a private-to-public partnership. We are funded mostly by employers. So they give us some money to essentially cover the costs of our organization, to really lift up our programs. And then we also get money from the state, DECD, Department of Economic and Community Development, and Finance Authority of Maine. And I'll talk about those a little bit later just because they help us lift up very specific programs. But we are a very nimble organization that tries different programming. We do a lot of like PR and marketing. We're not a placement firm, so I don't work with individuals. If somebody, I'm not taking phone calls with somebody saying, hey, I think I'm going to move to Maine. Can you help me? Okay, well, I do that. I do answer every phone call that I get, or LinkedIn message that I get, because it's in my nature to just be like, how can I help you? What do you need? Where can I point you? But we aren't placing people in jobs, is my point there. And we have a bunch of different programs that we run. I'm going to tell you about the Welcome Home program, and we promote the Opportunity Maine tax credit, and a bunch of other things. So I'll go into that as well. So these are our partners from the employer standpoint, from Bangor Savings, WEX, Bath Iron Works, and these are the organizations that believe in our mission and are funding what we're doing, so we're very thankful for them. And so we literally just try to be everywhere that we can be. Mike was making fun of me earlier, being like, you're everywhere. How have you been everywhere? I'm like, it's the algorithm, I think. It just pops up. I don't know. But there are a few things that you may have seen us in, but has anyone here watched Maine Life on TV? So we're an advertising partner with them. They feature us, they feature our stories, they feature our partners. It's a great way for us to get content that we can then use that and share those success stories with people who might be considering a move to Maine or who are already here. And I think that's an important distinction, because for a while, I think people thought we were like mainly focused on talent attraction, new people, but we are also very focused on talent retention, and that has become much more important over the past few years. So I want to talk about that, and I would love people's thoughts and feedback on that. But at the end of the day, we do need more people. The state estimates that we need about 60 to 70,000 people to enter the workforce. And I think that number is not crazy. Like that's not even one block in New York City. It's an attainable goal, And of course, there are different industries that really, really need people. We need healthcare workers, we need childcare workers, we need folks in manufacturing and the trades. But that number is doable. And I think that that's just something to remind ourselves that it's not like we need to bring 1 million people to the state of Maine. But since COVID, I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of people found Maine. I don't know if like, are the houses all gone? They're all gone. They're all bought. Oh dear. Yes, I know. They're all gone. Even like where I'm from, Sweden is 400 people. All gone. All the houses are gone. And there's no, obviously, I'm preaching to the choir here, but we can't build houses fast enough, and it's a huge problem. There's some stories that we hear from some of our partners. Like the other day, I was talking to Maine Health, and they had extended some nursing jobs up in Mid-Coast Maine, and the nurses accepted the jobs, and then when they couldn't find housing, I think like 10 of them rescinded their offers. And we can't lose nurses at this stage of the game. And same with Bath Iron Works. I mean, they're schlepping people in from an hour and a half away. And I mean, literally, ideas were thrown around, like, should we pull a cruise ship up and put them on the cruise ship? That's not a terrible idea. I mean, maybe that's what we have to do. That's a temporary solution. But I think we need to be thinking about creative solutions, and I just think that that's so important. And what was my point with this? Oh, just we try to really do a lot of storytelling. Like I said, we are very fortunate that we kind of get to carry around some of these success stories of what's working well, industries that are thriving, and we really try to get those messages out. Has anyone heard of the Live and Work in Maine Golf Open? So there is a golf tournament in Maine now. PGA, yes, PGA. So the next level down is Corn Ferry. That's the semi-pro, and they have chosen Maine as a location for their golf tournament. And then the employer community, they were trying to figure out the name of it, and they're like, let's call it the Live and Work in Maine Open, because which I think is super neat, because they wanted it to be more of, again, a call to action, which is good press for us. We're a good partner. All the golfers wear the Live Work Maine Open logo on their shirt, and so we take any press that we can get, and it just helps us get the brand out there. So, Opportunity Maine. Has anyone heard of this or taken advantage of this? See some nods. Oh, this is great. Okay, so Opportunity Maine is a program that is administered by Maine Revenue Services, and this is a huge differentiator for the state. If any other states or communities are doing this around the country, we were first, but we have this great program that I think should be talked about more and promoted. So essentially, if people have student loans, you can offset what you owe in income tax by taking advantage of the tax credit. And when it first started, you had to go to school in Maine in undergrad, either associate's or bachelor's degree. But since then, they've expanded the credit, and now doesn't matter. 2016 onward, it doesn't matter where folks went to school, went to undergrad. They can take advantage of the credit. So if you went to University of Michigan or Alaska, as long as you were living and working in Maine and paying income tax to Maine, you can take advantage of the credit, which is amazing. So we've been trying to work with our partners across the state, could be universities, saying, okay, when you're talking to students and maybe they're on the fence about what school they're going to pick, maybe they're looking at a school in Delaware or a school in Maine, this could be the thing that pulls them over and brings them to Maine, because they think, oh, well, if I move to Maine and then I decide to live and work there, this would be a great opportunity for me and a cost saving. So, and now it actually expanded to masters as well. So I know people that have gotten become physician assistants, physical therapists, or any of the other grad programs in Maine can also take advantage of this program. So we encourage our employer partners to also just kind of explain that as well when you're trying to potentially hire someone, especially out of state. It could be a great talent attraction tactic. So what we've heard recently, and this comes back to the retention piece, is two things. One is that people really, really want to find community. I mean, it has been a rough few years, and especially people that moved here over the pandemic, they don't feel a sense of belonging yet. They haven't met. We're lucky, right? We're part of the chamber organizations. We have this whole network, but there are a lot of new to Maine people, or hopeful to new Maine people, that don't yet have these kinds of community connections. And so that's where we thought we could really step in and help assist people find their community. Because we had this woman, Kaylin O'Brien, Dr. Kaylin O'Brien, and she chose live and work in Maine for her PhD study. And she was looking at how people decide to move somewhere and how people build community. And it all came down to people want to find their people. And that could be friends, that could be professional connections. They want to find their people, and that helps them stay. And so we were like, we're going to launch a program around this, because that is super, super important. And we've also heard from our employer partners and just general employers in Maine. They're like, we're being asked a lot more now to help people with this type of community stuff more than ever before. Because usually you get a job offer, you know your benefits, you know your pay, and then they're like, here's your desk, goodbye. But now people want to know, okay, how can I meet new friends? How can I volunteer in the community? How can you give me advice on childcare? What about transportation? Like, employers are being asked these things now, and they weren't always in the past. So this is, some of the bigger organizations are fortunate because they have bigger HR companies or HR departments, and they can focus on these things. But most of Maine is small businesses, and they don't necessarily have the bandwidth to have to worry about or think about these things. So we wanted to stand up these programs that really help people find their community, which I will tell you about shortly. It's called Welcome Home. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying about not knowing what's in our own backyard. Like I said, I grew up with knowing that there was a hospital and a school and small businesses. I did not know that just, a little bit away, there were all of these different industries in Maine. And now, I mean, it's robust. We have over 430 life science companies in Maine, which is a huge, huge differentiator. We have obviously manufacturing, aquaculture, agriculture, technology, and a lot of technology companies. But I think that is something that if somebody moves to Maine and wants to work at, or comes to work at WEX, for example. WEX is a payment processor based in Portland, global company. But if somebody is relocating to the state for that one job, they want to know that there isn't that only one opportunity. They want to know that there are other opportunities should something not work out. And that is where the storytelling comes in. We need to let people know that there are different clusters. We have a veterinary health tech cluster. We have this whole new aquaculture technology cluster. These things are very important to just consistently talk about, so people feel like, okay, I don't actually need to leave. I don't need to leave the state to grow my career. And I think that is something that we're also trying to really focus on. And it takes a village, because we need to be able to. Our teachers need to know that. Our guidance counselors need to know that, and parents and business leaders need to know that should we interact with young people. And yes, and I will just say this again, we need to stop telling our young people that they need to leave the state. And I loved my time in Washington, D.C. and San Francisco. It was great. Worked in politics for a while. Don't hold that against me. And then when I moved back to Maine about 7 years ago, that is when I realized that, oh, I was told this story, and I was told it from multiple sources in school, at home, and it swayed me, and I just think that we need to change that tune. So what we've learned, I gave a talk a little bit ago to Lewiston, Auburn, and they were trying to think through economic development and what they need to also attract. Every town in Maine is having this conversation, which I think is very just very, very, very important. But it's great that the business community is kind of banding together to think about these problems and not just thinking about it in a silo. For example, in Bath, the Bath Brunswick Chamber, I was talking to the executive director, and they're trying to get really creative around the childcare topic, because I think in addition to talent attraction, the other things that we keep constantly hearing, housing, childcare. Now, I don't personally have children yet, but it is just, I can sense from all of my friends and everyone that I talk to that it is such a stressful situation, and the prices are going up, and what can we do about this as a community? How can we all pitch in to make sure that our child care centers are funded, but then also potentially, like, should we be calling on the business community to essentially fund and keep these organizations in operation? I know we need to attract the people there, but if we can pay them well, then we can hopefully drive individuals to work in those industries. But I think this is going to be I think this is a business solution. We can wait on the state, or we can try to do something a little bit more bold. And I'm not an expert in that, but I just think that that's something worth chatting about. And so we, like I said, when we are doing the storytelling, it's really important to find people that are passionate about Maine, and especially at an organization that is hiring. Sometimes the big boss, or the person that's the HR person that's interacting with potential employees, isn't always the best messenger. So we've been hearing from employers that they're just trying to tweak a little bit how they're interacting with talent, and making sure that the right messenger, maybe it's a young person, a recent college graduate, is the one talking to another potential college, or another college graduate that might be working there. So they're really trying to get creative in who is the messenger to pull them into a new company, because sometimes it's not always the right messenger. So we've been hearing that from the employer partners, and people want to know that the schools are being invested in. So I've seen a lot of employers really stepping up their investments in the schools and encouraging more people their employees to engage in programs like junior achievement and jobs for Maine graduates, just because they're really seeing that correlation is super important, especially to new talent. So these welcome home events, this is going back to the community building piece. The idea came that every community is different. Waterville has a different vibe and scene and brand than Machias, than the county, than Brunswick. And so what we have done over the last year, we piloted this. We decided, we thought about two things. One was, we want a place for new people to Maine to be able to meet community members and have a place to really land. But also, it's a great tactic if somebody is considering a move to Maine to know that this program exists no matter what community they move to. So we partnered with different organizations in each town. So it could have been a chamber, a young professional organization, a Main Street organization, and essentially put on a really fun social event that was not about, we didn't want to use the word networking, but that's sort of it was a way for people to meet people who maybe were in the same spot of life as them. So we would ask people like, did anyone here move from really far away? Where did you move from? So someone might be like, oh, I moved from California. And then somebody else would be like, oh, I lived in California too. And then they immediately would have a mutual connection. Or if they just had a baby, everyone's always looking for new parent friends, or newlyweds, or somebody that's just totally did a job shift and is now in the startup scene. We were just trying to find ways to really like push people together and create community. So we did 6 of these across the state, and then this year we're going to do about 15 to 20, which is going to be a tour of Maine for Katie Shorey, which will be very fun. I'm very excited. And so I'm working with Sam in the back there to host a few in Waterville, and we're also going to be in Skowhegan. So really just trying to find a way to help bring communities together. Let's see here. This is our purpose. Yep, we want to make these replicable across the state, because we think that once we have these programs up and running, we want to be able to hand it off to the different communities so they can kind of do with it what they will. Those are our locations for this year. So I think what people, going back to the purpose of the talk, is really about how are we going to attract and keep people in Maine. And other than just saying, because this is what everyone says, is like, oh, we need to pay people more. We need to pay people more. And that is one bucket, that is one solution that we definitely need to be mindful of. But we also have some opportunity to be a little bit more, I think, creative and bold when it comes to other benefits. And so I asked some of our, I've been trying to just collect like what some of the employers in the state are doing to really keep people or attract new people. And they're really having to get creative about these solutions. And again, I know that some of these are they might be considered expensive for small businesses, but people are really trying to help their employees with the cost of childcare, so offering a stipend in addition to their salary that goes towards childcare. I heard about a startup, although they couldn't pay super well, they're very clear and open about equity in a company. Maine is very, we have a lot of ESOPs, and then also, oh my gosh, what's the name of the thing? It will come back to me. Type of company when you, oh gosh, okay, hold on, it's gonna come back to me. I just blanked on the type of company that we have. BCorp, there we go, BCorp. So there's a lot of companies in Maine are going toward that BCorp status, which means they care about, in addition to profits, they also care about people and the environment. And it's a hard status to get, but it really shows values, and organizations are shifting into that way as a focus on sustainability and people over profits. And that is attracting, it's definitely one way of attracting a younger generation for sure. But one startup couldn't necessarily offer a lot of money, so in addition to equity, every month they were giving employees like $100 toward self-care. It could have been for a mental health visit. It could be for a massage. It could be toward your rock climbing membership. And they also gave $50 toward a social outing if you wanted to like take a friend out. It was sort of earmarked as like, oh, dinner on us. Here's 50 or $75 or something. And I know that it doesn't sound like a lot, but the fact that the employers were thinking about these things, that, oh, this is important to our employees, is a huge retention piece for them. And employees just want to be heard. There's this whole focus now on acknowledging the full person at work, and recognizing that sometimes you can't just show up as an employee. Like, there's other crap that we're bringing along now, and just young people want to know that mental health and childcare and paid time off for being a new parent is something that employers are caring about. And it's, I think and I don't know how we're going to do this, so I'm throwing out an idea, but so bear with me. But I think if Maine could somehow figure out a way to either really cover childcare or we had a way for paid time off for paternity and maternity leave, like it would be people would flock here and stay in jobs. And I don't know how we're going to do it, so of course I'm throwing out an idea without a solution, but I just think that it would be a huge differentiator for us. We're one of the safest places in this country, and if we could say that we're focusing on our young people and our mothers and our parents, I just think it would be a game changer. But I'll get off my soapbox of that. And I've also been hearing from employers. It was really funny the other day. Somebody was giving a talk, and they were trying to come. How are we going to keep our young people? How are we going to figure out what they want or what they need? And I'm retelling the story because I wasn't in the room. And one guy stood up and he was like, I think I'm the youngest person here, and I'm 48. Like, maybe we should invite the young people into the room and ask them. So they decided to shift their model of like, we need to make sure that they're at the table. And so right now, sorry, I'm telling all these stories, so I'm hoping you're following my stream of thought. Right now, we are doing a side project for Department of Health and Human Services. Live and Work in Maine is. And they want to help attracting and keeping ages 18 to 24 and funneling them into early stage healthcare careers. So we're all sitting around and having the conversations about how we're going to do this and how we're going to market to them. And I think I said something about like a Facebook ad. And my colleague, very nice, my young 25-year-old colleague goes, Katie, no offense, but we're not on Facebook. Like, we're getting ads on TikTok. We're getting ads on Snapchat. And I was like, okay, good to know. Yes, you're right. Okay, I've aged myself. It's fine. But it was like, here I was, like, I did it. I was sitting around a table trying to come up with a solution for high schoolers and early college-aged people and realizing that I don't know how they're getting information. I don't know who they're influenced by or what they care about. So that really helped us pivot our project because it's very, very, like I would love to pick Parker's brain about so many things. I might be sending you an email, young man. Just because I think that it's very telling, and we need to just make sure that people are at the table. So I've seen some organizations, even if somebody's not in HR, in an HR capacity, really trying to bring different perspectives into the room, to the table when trying to figure out what we're going to do for talent attraction ideas, because it might just be different than we think. And the same could be said for, I've seen some companies be very mindful of helping people find professional development opportunities and opportunities to sit on boards, because sometimes you think of these positions or those roles as something that more senior people do. Like, oh, you know, this person's been at this organization for 10 years. We're going to give them the flexibility or the time to sit on a board. And I think it's very, very critical and important for people to allow very young people to sit on boards and make room for that. So if you have an opportunity to potentially have a seat on a board or have an advisory board, really try to like invite a young 20-something person into that role. I just think it's a great idea. So let's see, how are we doing on time? Here, 8:37. So I want to talk briefly about Startup Maine, because I didn't put slides up there about Startup Maine. I was honed in on Live and Work in Maine, but I just think it's an important differentiator and just something to be very mindful of, that we have this industry in the state. And so Startup Maine is a organization that is focused on highlighting and promoting our startup community. And what does that mean? Startup could mean a small business, somebody that's opening a store, opening a franchise. It could also mean somebody that has a very high growth, high impact tech, like a tech company. You think of like the Ubers of the world. And so we have a whole startup scene in the state of Maine, and it is very, very, very impressive. And so when I moved back to Maine in 2015, I attended this conference. It was at the time called Maine Startup and Create Week, but we have since now just called it Startup Maine, mainly because as an organizer, I can no longer organize a week-long conference because it takes everything out of me. So we just call it Startup Maine. But we also have we do more programming throughout the year other than that one conference, because that's what it used to be. It just was one time of year conference. And that was a game changer for me, because I was home visiting my parents. It was the summer 2015. I didn't know, I had left San Francisco. I thought maybe I'll move back to DC, or maybe I'll move to Boston. I'd never lived there. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll just be home for a little bit. I had a remote job at the time. And I saw on TV, Channel 6, that there was a startup conference. And I was like, Maine has a startup scene? I did not know about this. So I found a place to stay with a friend in Portland for the week, and I volunteered. And it was the catalyst and like the pivot for me. It totally opened my eyes to all of the different types of things that were happening in the state. And I'm a very usually level-headed person, but I made the most impulsive decision of my life. And after going to the conference for 2 days, I signed a lease in Portland, and then I moved back to Maine like that. So it all worked out beautifully, but I remember my mother being like, Caitlin, what are you doing? Are you sure about this? But she's now bought on to the idea that Maine has a lot going on, and I think she would also not tell her students to leave the state anymore, which I think is a win in my book. But so the startup conference was an opportunity for not only people who had businesses, but also the organizations that exist in Maine to support the entrepreneurs. So we have. And apologies if you know all of these things. I'm about to rattle off some acronym soup here, but Maine Technology Institute, Maine Center for Entrepreneurs, CEI Women's Business Center, SCORE. I could go on and on, but there's all these organizations that exist around the entrepreneurs to lift them up. It might be to provide mentors, capital resources, programming, just really to help elevate a company depending on what they need at a specific time. And then also, it was a great opportunity for people who were curious about Maine's startup and entrepreneurial scene to come and hear about all of the different companies that existed in Maine that they might not know about. So it was a really cool time of year where all of these people came together. And we would bring in keynotes from across the country or across the we had a few international speakers as well, and we partnered with, so for example in 2019 we partnered with the New England Ocean Cluster to really hone in on the ocean, the blue, it's called the blue economy, so anything ocean related. It could be ocean products, could be science related, or it could be anything in the aquaculture, marine space. And so New England Ocean Cluster was just getting off the ground. And there is an organization in Iceland called the Iceland Ocean Cluster. This woman, Berta Danielsdottir, was the CEO at the time. And so we were like, let's fly her over to Maine so she can talk about how they launched the Iceland Ocean Cluster and really built a lot of like private-public partnerships to get that off the ground, because they decided as a country they really wanted to lean in to that industry area. So that's just an example of like a Maine company and us working together to bring a person over to to speak at our conference, and we would bring all these different players to meet with the keynotes, just so there would be all of these really cool collisions, like very intentional collisions happening. And the conference was honestly, I think, a catalyst for a lot of individuals to realize that, oh, I can be an entrepreneur. I didn't realize that Maine had all of these resources. And it also caught the eye of investors and individuals in Boston, in New York. I have heard, I mean, there are so many people in the startup scene from Boston and New York that have recently moved to Maine. And Mike spoke earlier about Thomas College and the program that they're going to have in Waterville at the end of the month in collaboration with the Rue Institute. But I think it's really important to recognize that the reason that the Rue Institute is now in Maine or picked Maine is because of all of the things that have been happening in the decades leading up to now. So like we should be very proud of ourselves because all of these things made us look really ripe to Northeastern and that investment as okay, we're going to open a campus here focused on high growth tech industries of the future, life science, as well as an entrepreneurial track. And they wouldn't have made that investment in Maine, Northeastern as a large university, if they didn't have big and high hopes for Maine. So I just think that is another example of there is money funneling into this state, and investors have their eye on the state, and I just think that it is a very amazing opportunity. So the more we can encourage young people to consider a path of entrepreneurship, is, I think, going to be a game changer for us. So I feel like I've given you a lot of information to process, but I think more than anything, I really want to I think hammer home the fact or the idea that we're in a moment right now. And I don't know if you're feeling it. I'm feeling it from where I sit, but people are moving here. Eyes are on Maine. Companies are doing pretty well. We have companies that are moving here or standing up here, and we have these different industries that can really take us into the next century. And a lot of them are our traditional industries, our heritage industries of farming, fishing, agriculture, and what's the spin? Like what's the intersection of technology on those industries? Because I think that's where we are right now. I think that's a way for us to attract some really great knowledge workers, as well as harness the power and the passion of people that work in our current traditional industries. So I think I think we're in a great moment, and it takes the business community and just general, I think, community members coming together to really come up with creative solutions. And from where I sit with Live and Work in Maine, we're in addition to like launching a new program if we have an idea for it, or executing a program, we're an information gathering group as well. I mean, I had a call, I was driving yesterday, and I had two very interesting calls. Someone from the county was talking about launching a talent attraction program in that part of the state, and then I got a call from the Somerset County Sheriff's Department saying, like, we need to attract new cops as well as people that work at the jail, and we really think that we're going to look out of state instead of just in state, because we don't want to pluck from our neighboring town. We don't want to do that. That's been happening. So we think that we need to focus on finding correctional officers out of state and bringing them here. Like, what can you do to help me? And then I'm like, oh God, okay. So I'm getting these kinds of calls all the time, which I think is a good sign. I think it's a good sign that people are trying to come up with creative solutions and really think out of the box. And is anyone familiar with Boots to Roots? Boots to Roots, for those who don't know, really cool organization. They are specifically focused on attracting, transitioning military people and their families to Maine, because when people know like the date that they are out of service, and the government will pay for one move anywhere. So what if we could move them to Maine? And a lot of them are young. They're in their 30s, 40s. They have kids typically. And so Bill and his team are focused on getting in front of these people and trying to help them move to Maine. And so right now we're focused on a healthcare, one specific healthcare campaign with them aimed at, so there's a bunch of bases in the country that have healthcare professionals, specifically in Texas. And so we're like, oh, what if we can get in front of those individuals and then let them know about the healthcare roles in Maine? So we're doing a bunch of, I mean, it literally could be like billboards and ads and whatnot, but we're also like, we're physically going down to Texas in July and going to really do this whole like Promote Maine show, which is going to be very fun. So just trying stuff like that, and I think it'd be, we just need to do more of that, and it costs money, but I think those kinds of things, it's one little tactic, and anytime that we can get some good press around what we're trying to do in Maine and how welcoming we are, I think is a great, it's just worth trying. So I think that I would love to, I'll pause here because I would love to hear, if anyone has questions about our work or things that we're hearing, or if you have any challenges that you're facing that you would like us to just think through, because this is helpful for me, that when I go to the state, or I'm asked by someone either at Department of Labor, or we're talking to somebody at DHHS or DECD, it gives us fodder to be able to say, this isn't just a one-off thing that we've heard. Like, this small business here is having this struggle, and this large company is having this problem, and we need to do something about it. So the more, I think, collective feedback is helpful, and hopefully we can move the needle, because we all know how much we need talent, but I think we're onto something and we have a lot going for us in Maine. So I'll pause there and see if anyone has any questions.
Question.
Yes.
The Opportunity Maine tax credit that you referenced earlier.
Yep.
Is that for anybody who gets any college degree, or is it specific to occupation like pharmacy or plumbers, or, I'm making this up, I don't even know. Great
question. So it used to just be certain STEM-related fields, but now anyone with an associate's or bachelor's degree can take advantage of the Opportunity Tax Credit. So you could go for criminal justice, you could go for a 4-year microbiology degree, and so long as you're, say again? It started in 2000, the program started in 2008. So it started in 2008, but that was when you had to have gone to a college in Maine, and since 2016, it doesn't matter where you got your undergrad degree, you can take advantage of it. So opportunitymaine.org, I don't have that slide up, is, and that's where all the tax documents are too. So it's very important that we help as many young people as we can take advantage of that. Yes, sir.
The question I have is, you hit on it earlier when you talked about them trying to recruit the employees here, and they couldn't find housing.
Yeah.
So they didn't take the job.
Yeah.
That's a huge issue. This area, I happen to be in real estate, so I'm really close to this, but I'm telling you, anything we can do to bring tradespeople here, anything we can do to increase the amount of housing that's here, we're not going to have luck bringing young people back here, because they don't want to live in 100-year-old homes. They want to live in new. There are no condo projects for young people in the area, and I think we need somebody that's going to build we need construction. We need new workers
Yep.
here, and I think that's a challenge. And I talk to the people in the construction industry, and they hear they don't have the tradespeople. They don't have the people to do that.
To actually do the projects, you mean, in addition?
Correct. There
And
are
that-
projects available, ready to build, but they don't have the people to build them.
Interesting. And I mean, I think, and so I would wonder with that, and I don't have the answer to this, but I wonder, is that the case across the country, across the world, or are there construction workers that are underemployed or unemployed in parts of the country that we should be literally physically moving them here if they wanted to come?
You look at Texas is building houses, 200 houses at a time, when they build. And that's why they get people in Florida, same thing. We just don't have that here. I think that's a challenge, and we're missing the boat.
Yeah, I agree. Taxes, in the taxes.
And how many friends do we have that have moved out of state because now they're retired, they're at the peak earning years, they move out of state because of taxes. I mean, close friends, knows a lot of people that have all moved, take their residence out of state. They come back in the summer, but they're residents in Florida because of taxes.
And they're old, yep.
I guess we could turn around to a question, but so I'm from Maine.
Yeah.
Grew up, lived here, moved away. I'm in my 50s now. Raised our kids here, who are 24 and 21. They're both out of state.
Yeah.
But trying to encourage them to come back is, hopefully they will, because we have a business.
Yeah.
But
What do they say? Like when you say
So-
that, what are they saying as a reason to either not, or are they like maybe, mom, but not
a
yet?
maybe.
It's a maybe.
it's a maybe. The oldest is in Vermont.
Okay.
He works at a ski resort. So his job is more detailed, not here. The jobs, he could work in Maine and he could live in Maine, but it's not as much opportunity to him. I guess my point is that I'm 50 now and our bracket is diminishing. And we're the ones that are out doing the work and whatnot, but how to keep us here, our bracket,
Yeah.
because we're the ones that are at these meetings doing the social,
Yep.
etc. But you have to want to come back. That's another reason. So we moved away, came back, but we had a reason to come back.
Yep.
And I have to find a reason to stay here.
Do you think feeling embedded, like having a what are the reasons other than like let's say put taxes aside?
Yep,
Because
that's a big one.
we're not a lobbying organization, so I cannot take that up with anyone. But good to know. But what is it that would keep you?
So being in the community helps.
Okay.
And in trying to attract the people to get involved in the community, I find is the biggest challenge.
Like the next-
they're there, yeah. And like Dawn said, the tradesmen,
Yeah.
we need to get them back here because we're not recruiting from out of state. We're going to get from in-state. So it's like trying to involve those people in the state to get involved. I
And-
find that the toughest part.
Yes, and I think that, I mean, at the community college level and at the, obviously, people don't have to go to college if they don't want to. The vocational schools are amazing, and I think we should. There's definitely a big push on that front of like having people consider a role in the trades. I mean, growing up, I think that we were told, you need to go to college. You need to go to college, and I hope that we can kind of change that tune as well because we have so many jobs that need to be filled. I think that's a great point about thinking through the 50 plus group because we don't want to lose you. Anyone else?
So you mentioned younger people and attracting them
Yeah.
to come to Maine, and the housing thing is spot on. Number one, you can't find it, and if you can find it, it's at least as expensive as what they're paying in New York or wherever they are. But Maine has to be, it's like a snowball effect. Maine's the oldest state in the nation, and it's going to continue to get older because, if you look at Aroostook County is a great example. Half as many people live in Aroostook County than lived there 30 years ago.
Wow.
And that same number is similar in Washington County, I'm sure in Piscataqua, Somerset, across the top. But we also have growth counties like Cumberland and Kennebec, Androscoggin. So we have to focus on the younger population if we're going to change that average age. And the only way you're going to fix, employees and I'm over 52. But, and, you know, most of the people in this room are either Gen X or baby boomers.
Yep.
And there's some millennials in here, and the only Gen Z is the young man up front. But that's the number one group that we ought to be worried about is Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
Because those are the kids that got to stay.
Absolutely, yes. And we're working on a project or a proposal right now to really hone in on communities in Maine that need the attention the most, like the county and Somerset and whatnot. But yeah, it's a big challenge, and I appreciate your willingness to listen and to I guess be open to the type of work we're doing. But I'm hearing you loud and clear, and just know that we, as well as many other organizations, are thinking about it. But the work that you do at the chamber is so important, and I'll continue to keep on trying that we can. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Katie, and we do have a gift for you. We appreciate you being here today. I want to remind you to take a moment to complete the evaluation slips on your table, please. We have some door prizes that we're doing this morning. The first is a $10 gift certificate and travel mug donated by Aroma Joe's, and that is going to Don Plord of Coldwell Banker Plord Real Estate. Okay. Our next prize is a Bangor Savings Bank swag bag. It includes mug, pen, Callaway Bangor Savings Bank golf balls, and a $25 Visa gift card, and that's going to Christina Blaney, which is Melody Grace Hare, one of our new members. We have a Coldwell Banker Plord Real Estate swag bag and travel mug donated by Coldwell Banker Plord Real Estate, and that is going to Lindsay Gervais of Kennebec Savings Bank. Our next gift is a $25 chamber gift certificate donated by an anonymous member, and that's going to Jim Chapman of Kennebec Valley Community College. We have a $10 Salati Cafe gift card donated by Salati Cafe, and that's going to Amy Irwin of No Negatives Photography, another new member. Okay, now we're down. I don't want to pick favorites, but you guys already know it is. A cotton candy bath bomb and facial soap donated by Valley Springs Essentials, and you guys know we do one of these at every breakfast, and I talk about how great these are. But Michelle, the person who actually makes them, is here. So, and they are for sale. In addition to her website, they are for sale at Melody Grace and No Negatives Photography. So you can swing right over there, and that's going to Sabrina Jandro from Central Maine Growth Council. The Lion's Den gift, we have a $50 Lion's Den Tavern gift card donated by Fame, and that's going to Martha Wentworth from GHM Insurance. That's it, right? For the speaker. So I've learned that the last one didn't show up. So I want to thank you all for being here today. Thank you to our sponsors. Please join us for some of those upcoming events that I rattled off earlier, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.